Maya Chun had always been careful about her appearance at the law firm. Every morning, she made sure her blazer covered the intricate tattoo that spiraled from her shoulder down to her wrist. The design told a story that could destroy everything she had worked for, and in the conservative world of corporate law, image was everything. She had joined Patterson and Associates 3 years ago, fresh out of Harvard Law School, with dreams of making partner before 30. The firm specialized in high-profile cases involving government contracts and international business deals. Maya's colleagues saw her as the perfect corporate lawyer, polished, professional, and completely dedicated to her career. What they didn't know was that beneath her expensive suits lay a masterpiece of ink that documented her previous life. The tattoo wasn't just art, it was a map, a detailed record of locations, dates, and coded symbols that connected to a network she had left behind years ago. Maya's real name wasn't even Maya Chun. She had been born Ling Wei in Shanghai, the daughter of a small-time art dealer who had gotten involved with the wrong people. When she was 16, her father had been murdered for refusing to authenticate fake paintings for a criminal organization. That same organization had tried to use Maya as leverage, forcing her into their operations as a translator and courier. The tattoo had been their idea, a way to carry information without arousing suspicion. Each symbol represented a different safe house, each date a completed transaction, each line a route used for moving stolen artifacts. For 2 years, Maya had lived as their unwilling asset, memorizing locations across 3 continents and watching as priceless cultural treasures disappeared into private collections. Her escape had come during a job in New York. While delivering a stolen Ming vase to a collector in Manhattan, she had slipped away from her handlers and walked straight into the FBI field office. Agent Sarah Rodriguez had been the first person to listen to her story, and together they had worked out a plan. Maya would disappear completely, new identity, new background, new life, in exchange for everything she knew about the trafficking network. The FBI had kept their end of the bargain. Maya Chun was born in their safe houses and raised in their witness protection programs. They had given her a scholarship to Harvard, a clean background check, and a chance at the American dream. All she had to do was keep quiet about her past and never let anyone see the evidence written across her skin. For 3 years, the system had worked perfectly. Maya excelled at her job, earned the respect of her colleagues, and slowly began to believe that her past was truly behind her. She dated occasionally, but always kept relationships casual. She had friends, but never got too close. She lived in a beautiful apartment in downtown Seattle, but always kept her bags packed, just in case. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday morning in September. Maya was reviewing contracts in her office when her assistant knocked on the door with an urgent expression. A new client wanted to meet with the firm's most experienced international law specialist, and senior partner David Patterson had recommended Maya for the job. The client's name was Vincent Morrison, and he claimed to represent a private art collection that needed legal guidance for international acquisitions. Maya felt her blood run cold as she read his file. Morrison's background was vague, his references were minimal, and his business interests seemed to span exactly the same regions where Maya had once worked as an unwilling courier. She tried to convince herself it was just a coincidence. The art world was smaller than people realized, and legitimate collectors did business in the same cities where criminals operated. But when Morrison walked into her office that afternoon, Maya knew her careful new life was about to collapse. He was younger than she had expected, probably in his early 30s, with dark hair and expensive clothes that couldn't hide the calculating look in his eyes. As he sat down across from her desk, Maya noticed the way he studied her face, as if he was trying to place her from somewhere. "Ms. Chun," he said, his voice carrying a slight accent she couldn't place. "I understand you're the best international legal counsel this firm has to offer." Maya forced herself to smile professionally. "I do my best to serve our clients' needs. I understand you're interested in art acquisition." Morrison leaned back in his chair, still watching her carefully. "Among other things, I represent collectors who are interested in pieces with interesting histories. items that may have traveled extensively before finding their current homes. The coded language was unmistakable. Maya had heard similar phrases hundreds of times during her previous life. Morrison wasn't talking about legitimate art sales. He was talking about stolen goods and black market transactions. "I'm afraid I specialize in completely legal acquisitions," Maya said carefully. "If you're looking for help with anything that might violate international treaties or cultural heritage laws, I'm not the right attorney for you." Morrison smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. "Of course, I wouldn't dream of asking you to do anything illegal. But I'm curious about your background, Ms. Chun. Your resume shows you went straight from Harvard to this firm, but you seem to have an unusual understanding of international art markets for someone so young." Maya's heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. "I wrote my thesis on cultural property law. The research was quite extensive." "I'm sure it was." Morrison reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. As he leaned forward to place it on Maya's desk, his eyes dropped to her wrist, where her sleeve had ridden up slightly to reveal the edge of a black line. For just a moment, Maya saw recognition flicker across his features. Morrison's smile became more genuine, but also infinitely more dangerous. "Perhaps we could continue this conversation over dinner," he said, standing up smoothly. "I think we have more to discuss than I initially realized." After Morrison left, Maya sat alone in her office, staring at the business card he had left behind. The company name meant nothing to her, but the logo and stylized phoenix rising from flames was familiar. She had seen it before, tattooed on the wrist of one of her former handlers. Maya pulled out her phone and scrolled to a contact she hadn't called in 3 years. Agent Rodriguez answered on the first ring, as if she had been expecting the call. "Maya? What's wrong?" "I think they found me," Maya whispered, looking around her office to make sure no one could hear. "Someone from the old network. He was asking questions, and I think he recognized me." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Are you sure? His logo matches one I remember. And he was too interested in my background." Maya hesitated, then added, "Sarah, what happens if my cover gets blown? What's the protocol?" Agent Rodriguez's voice was grim when she answered. "Pack a bag and be ready to move. I'll have a team in Seattle by tomorrow morning to assess the situation. Until then, act normal, but don't go anywhere alone." Maya hung up and looked around her office. The diplomas on the wall, the case files stacked neatly on her desk, the photo of her law school graduation that represented everything she had built in her new life. In 24 hours, all of it might be gone. As she gathered her things to leave for the day, Maya caught sight of her reflection in the office window. For just a moment, she could see past the professional exterior to the scared girl who had walked into that FBI office 7 years ago. The girl whose father had died for refusing to cooperate with criminals. The girl who had spent 2 years carrying their secrets under her skin. Maya pulled her sleeve down to cover the edge of her tattoo and headed for the elevator. She had survived before by being smart and careful. Whatever Morrison wanted, whatever game he was playing, she would find a way to protect the life she had built. She had to. But as the elevator doors closed behind her, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. Through the building's windows, she caught a glimpse of a dark SUV parked across the street. The same SUV that had been there when Morrison arrived for their meeting. Maya took the stairs down to the parking garage instead of the elevator. As she walked quickly to her car, she pulled out her phone and sent a text to Agent Rodriguez. "They're already watching me. This is bigger than we thought." The response came back immediately. "Stay calm. Help is coming. Whatever you do, don't let them see the tattoo." Maya started her car and pulled out of the garage, checking her mirrors constantly. The dark SUV was gone, but she knew that didn't mean she was safe. If Morrison was really connected to her past, then he already knew more about her than she was comfortable with. And if he had seen even a glimpse of her tattoo, it was only a matter of time before he put the pieces together. As she drove home through Seattle's evening traffic, Maya began making plans. She would go to her apartment, pack the emergency bag she had kept ready for 3 years, and wait for Agent Rodriguez's team to arrive. She would cooperate with whatever relocation protocol the FBI had in place. She would leave behind her career, her friends, and the life she had worked so hard to build. But this time, Maya promised herself she wouldn't run blindly. This time, she would find out exactly who was hunting her and why. And this time, she would make sure that when the dust settled, she would be the one left standing. The tattoo on her arm seemed to burn under her sleeve as she drove through the darkening city. For 3 years, she had hidden the evidence of her past. Now it might be the key to her survival. Maya's apartment felt different when she walked through the door that evening. The same furniture, the same carefully chosen artwork on the walls, but now everything felt temporary, like a movie set that could be struck at any moment. She went straight to her bedroom closet and pulled out the gray duffel bag she had hoped never to use. Inside were clothes, cash, fake identification documents, and a burner phone. Everything Agent Rodriguez had given her 3 years ago as insurance against exactly this situation. Maya had checked the bag every few months to make sure everything was still there, but she had never imagined she would actually need it. As she added a few personal items to the bag, Maya's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Maya-chun. The voice was unfamiliar, male, with the same slight accent she had noticed in Morrison's speech. Who is this? A friend of Vincent Morrison. He mentioned you had an interesting conversation today. Maya's mouth went dry. I'm sorry, but I don't discuss client meetings with third parties. You'll need to contact my office directly if you want to schedule an appointment. The man laughed softly. I think you misunderstand the nature of our relationship. This isn't about legal services. This is about old friends catching up. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. Just like you don't know why you chose the name Maya-chan, or why you have such detailed knowledge of art trafficking routes through Eastern Europe, or why you're so careful to keep your arms covered, even in warm weather. Maya's hand instinctively moved to her sleeve. You have the wrong person. Do I? Because I have some very interesting photographs here. Photos taken with a telephoto lens through your office window this afternoon. Photos that show a very distinctive black mark on your wrist when you reach for some papers. Maya felt the room spinning around her. What do you want? To talk. Face to face. There's a coffee shop called Meridian Roasters on Pine Street. Be there in 1 hour. Come alone, and come ready to have an honest conversation about your artwork. The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone, her mind racing through options. She could call Agent Rodriguez immediately and ask for emergency extraction. She could ignore the meeting entirely and hope the FBI team arrived in time to protect her. Or she could go to the meeting and try to find out exactly what Morrison's people knew about her. Maya looked at the duffel bag on her bed, then at her reflection in the mirror. For 3 years, she had lived as someone else's creation. Maya-chan was a character written by FBI agents and witness protection specialists. Maybe it was time to remember who she really was underneath the careful facade. She called Agent Rodriguez. Maya, are you safe? We've been tracking some unusual activity around your building. They just called me. They want to meet. Absolutely not. We're 12 hours away from having a full protection detail in place. You stay put until then. Sarah, they have photos of my tattoo. They know who I am. There was a long pause. How much of the tattoo did they see? I don't know. Maybe just the edge, but if they're really from the old network, they'll know what to look for. The whole thing could be compromised. Agent Rodriguez's voice became very serious. Maya, listen to me carefully. If they have conclusive evidence of your identity, then staying hidden won't protect you anymore. But go to meeting alone is suicide. What if I went wired? What if we could record whatever they tell me? Too risky. These people killed your father, remember? They're not going to hesitate to kill you if they think you're a threat. Maya walked to her window and looked down at the street. 2 dark SUVs were now parked on opposite corners, their occupants visible as shadows behind tinted glass. They're already here, Sarah. They're watching my building right now. I don't think I have the luxury of waiting for backup. Agent Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. If you're determined to do this, we need to set some ground rules. The meeting has to be in a public place with multiple exit routes. You wear a wire and keep the conversation short. And the moment you feel threatened, you get out. They want to meet at a coffee shop on Pine Street. I know the place. It's busy, lots of foot traffic, good sight lines. I can have surveillance teams in position within 30 minutes. Maya made her decision. Do it. But, Sarah, if this goes bad, I want you to know that the tattoo isn't just a record of where I've been. It's also a map of where they keep things. Safe houses, storage facilities, even some of the collectors' locations. If something happens to me, that information might be worth more than my testimony ever was. Nothing's going to happen to you. But, Maya, before you go, I need you to do something. Take photos of your entire tattoo. Detailed photos that show every symbol, every date, every line. Upload them to the secure server I'm going to text you. If this meeting is a trap, we need to make sure that information survives, even if you don't. Maya spent the next 20 minutes photographing her tattoo from every angle. It was the first time she had really looked at the complete design in years. The intricate patterns told the story of her captivity in painful detail. Symbols for the warehouse in Prague where stolen paintings were stored, coordinates for a safe house in Istanbul, even the personal marking of Dmitry Volkov, the Russian crime boss who had controlled her life for 2 terrible years. As she uploaded the photos, Maya realized that she had been carrying around evidence that could destroy an entire criminal network. The FBI had known the basics of her story, but they had never seen the complete map. Every symbol she had memorized, every location she had visited, every date she had recorded. It was all there, written in ink across her skin. The coffee shop was crowded when Maya arrived, exactly as Agent Rodriguez had promised. She chose a table near the back with clear views of both the front and rear exits. Maya ordered black coffee and waited, tried to look calm, while scanning the faces around her for anyone who seemed out of place. Morrison arrived exactly on time, but he wasn't alone. 2 men in expensive suits flanked him as he walked to Maya's table. Both had the alert, predatory look of professional bodyguards. Ms. Chun, Morrison said, sitting down across from her. Thank you for coming. I'm here because you threatened me. Let's get this over with. Morrison signaled to his companions, who took seats at nearby tables where they could watch the room. I prefer to think of it as an invitation to be honest with each other. You see, I've been looking for someone like you for a very long time. Someone like me? Someone who understands the art world from the inside. Someone who has experience with alternative acquisition methods. Someone who might have detailed knowledge of certain operations that were disrupted several years ago. Maya kept her expression neutral, but her heart was pounding. I told you, I specialize in legal art transactions. Morrison reached into his jacket and pulled out a tablet. He turned the screen toward Maya, showing a high-resolution photograph of her wrist taken through her office window. The image clearly showed several inches of her tattoo, including a distinctive symbol that Maya remembered all too well. This mark, Morrison said, pointing to the symbol, was used by Dmitry Volkov's organization to indicate safe passage through certain European routes. It's not the kind of thing someone learns from law school research. Maya stared at the photograph, knowing that her cover was completely blown. What do you want from me? Information. Volkov's network collapsed 7 years ago when someone provided the authorities with detailed intelligence about their operations. That same someone disappeared completely, leaving behind millions of dollars in stolen art and dozens of unsolved cases. Morrison leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. I represent certain parties who would very much like to recover what was lost. People who believe that the person who betrayed Volkov might still have access to information about where specific pieces are hidden. And you think I'm this person? I think you're Ling Wei, daughter of Chun Wei, the art dealer who was murdered in Shanghai for refusing to cooperate with Volkov's organization. I think you spent 2 years as Volkov's unwilling courier before you disappeared in New York. And I think the tattoo on your arm is a complete record of every location, every transaction, and every piece of stolen art you helped move during that time. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Morrison knew everything, not just her real identity, but the exact details of how she had been forced to work for Volkov's network. Let's say you're right, she said carefully. What makes you think I would help you recover stolen art? If I really was this Ling Wei person, wouldn't I have good reasons for wanting to stay hidden? Morrison smiled. Because, my dear Ling Wei, you don't have a choice anymore. Your cover is blown, your location is known, and there are people in this world who have very long memories about betrayal. Dmitry Volkov may be in prison, but his organization didn't die with his arrest. It evolved. He gestured around the coffee shop. Right now, there are 6 men positioned around this building. Each one has experience in making people disappear permanently. You can cooperate with us voluntarily, or we can extract the information we need through less pleasant methods. Maya's training kicked in. She had been in dangerous situations before, and Agent Rodriguez had taught her to stay calm under pressure. She took a sip of coffee and met Morrison's eyes steadily. If you already know who I am and what I know, then you understand the value of what's written on my skin. That information is worth millions of dollars to the right buyer. If you kill me, you lose access to all of it. True. But if you refuse to cooperate, we lose access anyway. At least if we extract the information by force, we can make sure no one else gets it. Maya's phone vibrated with a text message. Without looking away from Morrison, she glanced down at the screen. The message was from Agent Rodriguez. Teams in position. Say the word coffee if you need immediate extraction. Before I give you any information, Maya said, I want to know exactly who you're working for. You said you represent certain parties, but you never said who. Morrison considered this for a moment. Fair enough. I work for a consortium of collectors who lost significant investments when Volkov's network was exposed. Some of them are legitimate business people who were unknowingly purchasing stolen goods. Others are less concerned with legality and more interested in recovering their property. And they sent you to find me. They sent me to find anyone who might have information about where their missing pieces ended up. You just happen to be the most comprehensive source we've located. Maya nodded slowly, as if considering his proposition. In reality, she was studying the positions of Morrison's men and calculating the distance to the nearest exit. The tattoo covers a lot of territory, she said. Different symbols for different types of operations. If your clients are looking for specific pieces, I need to know exactly what they're trying to recover. Morrison relaxed slightly, apparently thinking he was making progress. We have a list. Paintings, sculptures, artifacts. Items worth between $5 and $50 million each. That's a wide range, and a lot of pieces to track down, which is why we're prepared to offer you a substantial finder's fee for your cooperation. 20% of the recover value for each piece you help us locate. Maya pretended to consider this. That's generous, but I need guarantees about my safety. If I help you recover stolen art, I become a target for every law enforcement agency in the world. We can arrange new documentation, a completely fresh identity in any country you choose. All you have to do is share what you know. Maya looked around the coffee shop, noting the positions of Morrison's men. 3 near the front entrance, 1 by the rear exit, 2 at tables with clear sight lines to her position. Agent Rodriguez's surveillance teams would have spotted them by now, but Maya still needed to be careful about how she played this. I'll need time to think about your offer, she said finally. Morrison's smile became predatory. I'm afraid time is something we don't have much of. You see, we're not the only ones looking for you. There are other parties, less patient parties, who would prefer to handle this situation more directly. As if on cue, Maya noticed movement outside the coffee shop windows. More dark SUVs were pulling up to the curb, disgorging men in suits who immediately took positions around the building. Morrison followed her gaze and nodded grimly. I told you Volkov's organization had evolved. What I didn't mention is that it split into competing factions after his arrest. I represent the civilized faction. The people surrounding this building right now represent the other side. Maya's blood ran cold as she realized the full scope of what was happening. This wasn't just about recovering stolen art. This was about 2 criminal organizations fighting for control of information that could reshape the entire black market art trade. And she was caught in the middle, with enemies closing in from all sides. Maya's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from Agent Rodriguez. Morrison gestured for her to answer it. Maya, we have a problem. Multiple hostile vehicles surrounding your location. We count at least 12 armed individuals in tactical positions. I can see them, Maya said quietly, watching through the window as more men took positions across the street. The situation has escalated beyond what we prepared for. We need to extract you now. Morrison leaned across the table. Tell your FBI friend that any attempt at extraction will result in a very public firefight. There are civilians in this area, including children from the elementary school across the street. Maya felt sick. She looked around the coffee shop and noticed for the first time how many families were present. Parents with young children, elderly couples, college students working on laptops. If shooting started, innocent people would be caught in the crossfire. Sarah, he's right about the civilians. Too many people here. Then, we need another option. Can you get Morrison to move the meeting somewhere else? Maya looked at Morrison, who was watching her with calculating eyes. He wants the information about the tattoo. Maybe I can use that as leverage. Be very careful, Maya. We're tracking additional vehicles moving toward your position. Whatever's happening, it's bigger than just Morrison's people. Maya ended the call and faced Morrison directly. You said there were competing factions after Volkov's arrest. Who were the people outside? The Kozlov brothers. They took control of the Eastern European operations when Dmitry went to prison. They're not interested in negotiation or finder's fees. They want the complete tattoo, and they don't care if you survive the extraction process. Extraction process? Morrison's expression was grim. There's surgical techniques for preserving skin art after the original owner no longer needs it. The Kozlovs have access to doctors who specialize in such procedures. Maya felt nauseous. They want to skin me alive. Not necessarily alive, though that would depend on how cooperative you choose to be. Through the window, Maya could see more movement. The Kozlov brothers' men were communicating with hand signals, clearly preparing for some kind of coordinated action. How long do we have? She asked. Morrison checked his watch. Maybe 10 minutes before they decide to move. They're probably waiting for civilian foot traffic to clear from the immediate area. Maya's mind raced through possibilities. The FBI surveillance teams were outnumbered and couldn't risk a firefight in such a crowded area. Morrison's people were clearly outgunned by the Kozlovs. And she was sitting in the middle with information that multiple criminal organizations would kill for. But Maya had one advantage that none of them knew about. During her 2 years with Volkov's network, she had memorized more than just locations and routes. She had also learned about the personal rivalries, family connections, and business relationships that held the organization together. Information that could be devastating if used correctly. Vincent, she said, using his first name deliberately, there's something you need to know about the Kozlov brothers. Something that's not common knowledge in your circles. Morrison looked intrigued despite the tense situation. What kind of information? The kind that could destroy their operation permanently. But I'm not giving it away for free, and I'm not sharing it while we're surrounded by their men. What are you proposing? Maya took a deep breath. I'm proposing that we all leave here together. You, me, and your security team. We go somewhere private where I can show you exactly what's written on my tattoo and explain what it all means, including the information about the Kozlovs that they definitely don't want you to have. Morrison considered this. And in exchange? In exchange, you get me safely out of this situation. You get complete access to everything I know about Volkov's old network. And you get information that will eliminate your biggest competition in the stolen art recovery business. The Kozlovs won't just let us walk out of here. They will if they think I'm already dead. Maya pulled out her phone and showed Morrison the secure app that Agent Rodriguez had given her. This is connected to FBI surveillance systems. I can have them stage a fake evacuation scenario. Ambulances, body bags, the works. The Kozlovs see what looks like a botched extraction attempt where I didn't survive. They think the information died with me. And meanwhile, you and I disappear through the back exit during the chaos. By the time they realize what happened, we're already gone. Morrison looked out at the positioning of the Kozlov forces, then back at Maya. That's extremely risky. If they figure out the deception, then we're no worse off than we are right now. But if it works, you get everything you came for, and I get to stay alive. Morrison was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he nodded. "Make the call." Maya dialed Agent Rodriguez. "Sarah, I need you to stage a fake death scenario. Make it look like an extraction attempt went wrong, and I was killed in the crossfire." "Maya, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to survive this. Trust me and do exactly what I tell you." Agent Rodriguez was silent for several seconds. "This is completely outside protocol." Protocol went out the window when they surrounded a coffee shop full of civilians. "Just give me 15 minutes of chaos and confusion. I can't authorize putting you at additional risk." "You're not authorizing anything. I'm a witness under threat, and I'm making tactical decisions to preserve my own life and protect civilian bystanders. Your job is to support those decisions." Maya could hear Rodriguez discussing something with other people in the background. Finally, she came back on the line. 15 minutes. "But, Maya, if this goes wrong, we won't be able to extract you." "Understood." Maya hung up and looked at Morrison. "When the ambulances arrive, your men need to be ready to move immediately. We go out the back, through the kitchen, if necessary." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere the Kozlovs won't think to look for us. Somewhere I can show you information that will change everything you think you know about this business." Morrison signaled to his security team with subtle hand gestures. Maya noticed they were already moving into position near the rear of the coffee shop. 5 minutes later, the first sirens became audible in the distance. Maya watched through the window as the Kozlov men became agitated, clearly trying to decide whether to move immediately or wait to see what was happening. The ambulances arrived with full lights and sirens, followed by police cars and what looked like FBI tactical vehicles. Maya had to admire Agent Rodriguez's staging. It really did look like a major law enforcement operation gone wrong. Paramedics rushed into the coffee shop, shouting instructions and clearing customers out through the front entrance. In the confusion, Maya and Morrison's team slipped out through the rear exit, moving quickly through the building service corridor. They emerged in an alley behind the coffee shop, where Morrison had a car waiting. As they drove away, Maya could see emergency vehicles surrounding the building they had just left. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to Agent Rodriguez. "Package secured. Proceeding to secondary location." The response came back immediately. "Kozlovs bought the deception. Withdrawing from area. You're on your own now." Morrison's car wound through Seattle's downtown streets, taking a deliberately indirect route to avoid any possible surveillance. After 30 minutes, they pulled into the underground garage of an expensive hotel. "Penthouse suite," Morrison explained as they got into the elevator. "Completely secure. No electronic surveillance, soundproof walls, and my people control all access points." The suite was luxurious, but clearly designed for business rather than pleasure. Conference tables, computer equipment, and multiple phone lines dominated the main room. Morrison's security team took positions at the windows and entrances. "Now," Morrison said, pouring himself a drink from the bar, "let's see what you've been hiding under those sleeves." Maya hesitated for a moment, then slowly removed her blazer and began rolling up her sleeves. The tattoo became visible inch by inch, revealing the intricate network of symbols, dates, and geographical markers that covered her entire arm. Morrison studied the design with obvious fascination. "It's more comprehensive than I imagined. How many locations are represented here?" 47 safe houses, 16 storage facilities, 8 private collections, and 12 shipping routes, plus personal identification marks for 32 different operatives. "And you memorized all of this?" "I had to. Volkov's people tested me regularly to make sure I could recall any detail on demand. If I had failed any of their quizzes, they would have killed me." Morrison pulled out a high-resolution camera. "I need to document everything. My clients will want verification. Before you take any photos, you need to understand what you're really looking at. This isn't just a record of past operations. Some of these locations are still active." Morrison lowered the camera. "What do you mean?" "I mean that when I gave the FBI information about Volkov's network, I didn't tell them everything. I held back certain details to protect myself. Safe houses that were used for witness protection. Storage facilities where stolen goods were hidden but never recovered. Routes that are still being used by other organizations. Maya pointed to a specific symbol on her forearm. This mark indicates a warehouse in Prague, where Volkov stored paintings that were too hot to sell immediately. The FBI raided the main facility, but they never found the backup location. Last I heard, there were still 17 major works hidden there, including a Van Gogh that was stolen from a Dutch museum in 1991. Morrison's eyes widened. The Van Gogh alone would be worth $40 million. At least. And that's just one location. There are others where the stored goods were never recovered because law enforcement didn't have complete information. Why didn't you tell the FBI about these places? Maya's expression hardened. Because I learned not to trust anyone completely. The FBI kept their bargain with me, but I knew that if I ever became inconvenient, they might decide I was more valuable dead than alive. Keeping some secrets was my insurance policy. Morrison was already calculating the implications. If even half of these hidden locations still contain stolen goods, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in recoverable art. But here's what you need to understand about the Kozlov brothers, Maya continued. They don't just want to recover stolen art. They want to control the entire black market. Every symbol you see here represents territory they want to claim as their own. Maya pointed to another section of her tattoo. These marks show the personal territories of individual operators. This one belonged to Alexei Kozlov's younger brother, Yuri. What the current leadership doesn't know is that Yuri was skimming from family operations for years. He had his own private collection, hidden in locations that aren't marked on any official records. How do you know this? Because Yuri tried to recruit me for his personal operations. He wanted me to carry information about his private deals separately from the family business. I turned him down, but not before he told me enough to understand what he was doing. Morrison was listening intently now. What happened to Yuri? He disappeared about 6 months before I escaped. Officially, the family says he was killed during a raid in Istanbul. But I saw him in New York 3 weeks after he was supposed to be dead. He was using a new identity and moving stolen art through completely independent channels. You're saying Yuri Kozlov faked his own death to escape his family? I'm saying Yuri Kozlov is still alive, still operating, and still has access to private collections worth millions of dollars. Collections that his brothers don't know exist. Morrison set down his drink and stared at Maya. If that's true, it changes everything. The Kozlov brothers have been operating under the assumption that they inherited all of Yuri's territory when he died. They inherited the official territory. They have no idea about the private operations. And here's the best part. I know where Yuri is hiding. Maya pointed to a small, seemingly insignificant symbol near her wrist. This mark was Yuri's personal signature. He used it to identify safe houses that were completely off the books. I memorized 3 locations where he told me he could disappear if he ever needed to run from his own family. Morrison was already reaching for his phone. My clients need to know about this immediately. Wait, Maya said, grabbing his arm. Before you make any calls, you need to understand what happens next. If you use this information to expose Yuri, you'll destroy the Kozlov brothers' power structure. They'll know that someone has detailed intelligence about their internal operations. They'll come after both of us with everything they have. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we be smart about this. We use the information strategically. We recover the hidden art slowly, carefully, without revealing how much we really know. And we make sure that when the dust settles, we're the ones left holding all the cards. Morrison considered this, looking at the comprehensive map of criminal operations that Maya had literally written on her skin. You're talking about playing a very dangerous game. I've been playing dangerous games my entire adult life. The difference is that this time, I'm choosing to play instead of being forced into it. Maya rolled down her sleeves, covering the tattoo once again. The question is whether you're brave enough to partner with someone who knows where all the bodies are buried, literally and figuratively. Morrison poured himself another drink, his mind clearly racing through possibilities and risks. Outside the hotel windows, Seattle glittered in the evening light, unaware of the criminal empire that was about to be reshuffled by the woman in the penthouse suite. There's one more thing you should know, Maya said quietly. The tattoo doesn't just show where things are hidden. It also shows who can be trusted and who can't be, including people in your own organization. Morrison's hand froze halfway to his mouth. What do you mean? Maya smiled for the first time since entering the coffee shop. I mean that before we go any further, we need to talk about why your contact information matched a symbol I memorized 7 years ago, and why someone in your organization has been feeding information to the Kozlovs all along. Morrison's face went pale as Maya's words sank in. He set his drink down carefully, his hand trembling slightly. What exactly are you saying? Maya walked to the window and looked down at the street below. 3 black SUVs were parked at different corners around the hotel, their occupants barely visible through tinted windows. I'm saying that the Kozlovs knew exactly where to find me today because someone told them. Someone who had access to the same information you did about my identity and location. She turned back to face Morrison, her expression serious. When I was working for Volkov's organization, one of the things I learned was how to read the relationships between different criminal groups. Who was really loyal, who was playing both sides, and who was feeding information to law enforcement. Morrison's security team was listening now, their attention focused on Maya rather than the windows and doors they had been watching. The symbol that matches your business card, Maya continued, was used by a man named Viktor Petrov. He worked as a liaison between Volkov's organization and various criminal groups across Europe. His job was to coordinate operations between groups that didn't necessarily trust each other. I don't know anyone named Viktor Petrov. No, but someone in your organization does. Someone who's been using Petrov's old contact networks to set up this entire operation. Someone who knew that approaching me directly would force me into exactly this situation. Maya pulled out her phone and showed Morrison a photo she had taken of her tattoo earlier. This symbol here represents a safe house in Prague where Petrov used to meet with double agents. People who were officially working for one organization while secretly reporting to another. Morrison studied the photo, his expression growing more troubled. You're saying someone on my team is working for the Kozlovs? I'm saying someone on your team set this whole thing up so the Kozlovs could get their hands on my tattoo without having to find me themselves. Think about it. Who suggested targeting me specifically? Who provided the intelligence about my real identity? Who chose the location for today's meeting? Morrison's jaw tightened as he ran through the implications. That would be David Reeves. He's my intelligence coordinator. He's the one who identified you as a potential source. And where did Reeves get his information about me? He said he had contacts in various law enforcement databases. People who could provide background information on potential assets. Maya shook her head. Law enforcement databases wouldn't have connected Maya Chun to Ling Wei. That connection exists only in classified FBI files and in the memories of the people who were directly involved in the original case. Someone with access to very specific, very protected information fingered me for this operation. Morrison was already reaching for his phone when Maya held up her hand. Wait, before you confront Reeves, you need to understand the full scope of what's happening here. The Kozlovs didn't just want to capture me. They wanted to eliminate their competition in the stolen art recovery business. Your organization, Morrison. You. What do you mean? Maya pointed toward the window. Those SUVs outside aren't just watching for my escape. They're in position to eliminate everyone in this room once they're sure the tattoo has been properly documented. Morrison's security chief, a large man named Thompson, stepped forward. How can you be sure about that? Because I've seen this play before. The Kozlovs don't believe in sharing information or splitting profits. They prefer to acquire assets and eliminate competitors in the same operation. It's more efficient. Maya pulled out her tablet and showed them a detailed floor plan of the hotel. I accessed the building schematics while we were talking. The Kozlovs have positioned their vehicles to control all the major exit routes from this building. But more importantly, they've had time to position people inside the hotel itself. Thompson moved to the window and looked down at the street with new understanding. If they control the exits, then we're trapped. Yes, but only if we keep playing by their rules. Morrison was beginning to understand the full complexity of the situation. You're saying this entire meeting was designed to get us all in one place where we could be eliminated efficiently. Exactly. But here's what they don't know. I still have allies they haven't identified. People who have been tracking this situation since it began. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message. She read it quickly, then smiled. Agent Rodriguez has been monitoring the Kozlov's communications. It turns out that David Reeves has been feeding them real-time updates about our conversation, including the fact that I've shown you the complete tattoo. Morrison's face darkened with rage. That son of a bitch. The good news is that Rodriguez has been feeding Reeves false information for the last 2 hours. The Kozlovs think I've only revealed part of the tattoo, and they think we're planning to move to a secondary location later tonight, which means we have a window of opportunity to turn this whole situation around. But it requires taking some significant risks. Maya walked to the conference table and spread out a map of Seattle. The Kozlovs are expecting us to try to escape through conventional routes, cars, airports, train stations. They have all of those covered. She pointed to a specific location on the map. But there's one route they won't expect: the shipping docks. Agent Rodriguez has arranged for a Coast Guard vessel to be waiting at Pier 47. If we can get there in the next 2 hours, we could be out of their reach permanently. Thompson studied the map. That's a 15-minute drive under normal circumstances. But with hostile surveillance, it would take a miracle, Morrison finished. Or a very good distraction, Maya said, which is why we're going to give the Kozlovs exactly what they think they want. Maya pulled out another phone, the burner device from her emergency bag. I'm going to call David Reeves and tell him that I've decided to cooperate fully with your organization. I'm going to tell him that I want to meet with representatives from all the major art recovery groups to auction off the information in my tattoo to the highest bidder. Morrison looked confused. Why would you do that? Because when Reeves reports that information to the Kozlovs, they'll abandon their current positions and move to wherever they think the auction is taking place. It will draw them away from this hotel and away from the pier. But where would we tell them the auction is happening? Maya smiled grimly. At the location where Yuri Kozlov has been hiding for the past 7 years. The warehouse where he's been storing his private collection of stolen art. Morrison's eyes widened as he understood the implications. You're going to send the Kozlov brothers to confront their supposedly dead brother. I'm going to send them into a situation where they'll be too busy dealing with family drama to worry about chasing us. Yuri has been operating independently for years, building his own organization. He's not going to be happy about his brothers showing up on his doorstep. Thompson was nodding slowly. It could work. Family conflicts in criminal organizations tend to be intense, especially when one family member has been stealing from the others while pretending to be dead, Maya added. Yuri has probably accumulated millions of dollars worth of stolen art that his brothers think belongs to them. Morrison was already thinking through the logistics. How do we know Reeves will report the information accurately? Because Rodriguez has been monitoring his communications with the Kozlovs. We'll know within minutes whether he passes along the message. Maya picked up the burner phone and dialed Reeves' number. Morrison gestured for his security team to listen in on the conversation. David, this is Maya Chun. I've been thinking about Morrison's proposal, and I've decided I want to expand the scope of our arrangement. What do you mean? Reeves' voice was cautious. I mean that the information I have is valuable enough to attract interest from multiple buyers. I want to set up a competitive bidding situation. Morrison's group, the Kozlovs, any other interested parties. There was a long pause. That's an interesting proposition. Where would such a meeting take place? Somewhere neutral. Somewhere that none of the competing groups control. I was thinking the warehouse district south of the city. There's an abandoned art storage facility that would be perfect for this kind of transaction. Maya read off the address of Yuri Kozlov's secret warehouse, the location she had memorized 7 years ago. When Reeves asked, tomorrow night, 11 o'clock, tell anyone who's interested that they should bring their best offer and be prepared to verify their ability to pay. This is a one-time opportunity. Maya hung up and looked around the room. Now we wait and see if the Kozlovs take the bait. Within minutes, Morrison's communication equipment was picking up increased radio traffic from the surveillance vehicles outside the hotel. Thompson, who spoke some Russian, was monitoring their conversations. "They're getting new orders," he reported. "Something about a change in operational priorities. They're being told to maintain minimal surveillance here, while moving most of their resources to a new location." "How long before they move?" Maya asked. "Looks like they're planning to reposition within the hour." Maya checked her watch. "Perfect. That gives us time to prepare our own exit strategy." Morrison was still processing the full scope of Maya's plan. "You realize that by tomorrow night, the Kozlov brothers will probably have killed each other, or they'll have worked out their family issues and decided to come after us together. Either way, we'll be long gone by then. And what about the stolen art in Yuri's warehouse? If the brothers destroy each other, millions of dollars in cultural artifacts could be lost forever." Maya's expression became serious. "I've been thinking about that, which is why I'm going to make one more call before we leave." She picked up her regular phone and dialed Agent Rodriguez. "Sarah? It's Maya. I'm about to give you the location of a warehouse containing stolen art worth approximately $60 million. But you need to move fast, and you need to coordinate with Interpol and the European Art Recovery Task Force." Maya read off Yuri's warehouse address and provided detailed information about the security systems and access points she remembered from her time with Volkov's organization. "There's going to be a significant criminal incident at that location tomorrow night," Maya continued. "Multiple armed groups converging on the same space. If you can coordinate a multinational law enforcement response, you might be able to recover stolen art and arrest some very dangerous people at the same time." Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. "Maya, why aren't you telling me about your current situation?" "I'm telling you that in approximately 18 hours, you're going to have the opportunity to wrap up 7 years' worth of cold cases. All I ask is that you wait until my associates and are safely out of the immediate area before you move." "Associates?" Maya looked around the hotel suite at Morrison and his security team. "It turns out that not everyone in the art recovery business is a criminal. Some people are just trying to return stolen goods to their rightful owners." This was partially true. Morrison's organization operated in legal gray areas, but they did work with museums and collectors to recover stolen pieces. Maya had decided that working with morally ambiguous professionals was preferable to being skinned alive by the Kozlov brothers. "I'll coordinate with the international task forces," Rodriguez said finally. "But, Maya, after tomorrow night, you need to decide whether you're coming back into official protection or whether you're staying off the books permanently." "I'll let you know." Maya hung up and looked around the room. "Gentlemen, I suggest we prepare to leave. We have a boat to catch." Thompson was already gathering equipment while Morrison made calls to arrange additional security for their escape route. Maya rolled up her sleeves one more time and took final photographs of her tattoo, uploading them to multiple secure servers. "Insurance," she explained when Morrison looked questioningly at her. "If anything happens to me, the information survives. If anything happens to you, I still have leverage with other potential buyers." "You don't trust me?" Maya smiled. "Vincent, I've learned not to trust anyone completely. But I've also learned that sometimes you have to take calculated risks to survive. Right now, working with you is my best calculated risk." As they prepared to leave the hotel suite, Maya took one last look out the window at the city where she had tried to build a normal life. Tomorrow, Maya Chen would cease to exist, just as Ling Wei had disappeared 7 years ago. But this time, she would be choosing her own new identity instead of accepting one created by government agencies. The tattoo on her arm would always carry the scars of her past, but maybe it was time to stop hiding from what was written there. Maybe it was time to use that information to build something better than the life she was leaving behind. Morrison's phone buzzed with an update from Thompson, who had moved to the lobby to monitor the Kozlovs' withdrawal from their surveillance positions. "They're moving," he reported. "All but one vehicle pulling away from the hotel. We have a clear route to the pier." Maya gathered her things, including the emergency bag she had packed what felt like a lifetime ago. As they headed for the elevator, she realized that for the first time in 7 years, she wasn't running away from her past. She was running toward whatever came next, with allies instead of handlers, and with information that could reshape an entire criminal industry. The elevator descended toward the parking garage, carrying Maya toward another reinvention, another identity, and another chance at survival. But this time, she would be more than just a witness hiding from her past. This time, she would be a player in her own right. The Coast Guard vessel was waiting exactly where Agent Rodriguez had promised, its running lights barely visible in the darkness of Seattle's industrial waterfront. Maya and Morrison's team had made the journey to Pier 47 without incident, following backstreets and service roads that avoided the main surveillance routes. Captain Sarah Chun, no relation to Maya's assumed identity, greeted them at the gangway with professional efficiency. She was a compact woman in her 40s with graying hair and the weathered look of someone who had spent years at sea. Agent Rodriguez briefed me on the basics, Captain Chun said as they boarded. We're taking you to international waters, then transferring you to a private yacht that will carry you to Vancouver. From there, you're on your own. Morrison nodded gratefully. How long until we're safely away from U.S. territorial waters? 4 hours. Maybe 5 if we encounter any patrol boats that want to inspect our cargo manifest. As the Coast Guard vessel pulled away from the pier, Maya stood at the stern watching Seattle's skyline recede into the distance. Somewhere in that glittering expanse of lights was the law firm where she had tried to build a normal life. Somewhere else were the FBI agents who had protected her for 3 years. And somewhere else entirely, criminal organizations were preparing for a confrontation that would reshape the international art theft trade. Morrison joined her at the railing, offering a cup of coffee from the galley. Any regrets about leaving all this behind? Maya considered the question seriously. I regret that innocent people might get hurt tomorrow night. I regret that my father never got to see me graduate from law school or build a legitimate career. But leaving Seattle? No regrets about that. What made you decide to trust me? I didn't trust you. I made a calculated decision to work with you because it offered the best chance of survival. Trust is something that has to be earned over time. Morrison smiled wryly. Fair enough. What happens now? After we reach Vancouver? Maya had been thinking about that question for hours. Now we disappear again. You go back to your organization and figure out how to clean house after Reeves' betrayal. I create a new identity and find a new life. It doesn't have to be like that. My organization could use someone with your knowledge and skills. Legitimate art recovery pays well, and you'd have protection from people like the Kozlovs. You mean I'd have a different kind of handler instead of the FBI? Morrison was quiet for a moment. Maybe, but you'd also have a chance to put your knowledge to good use. There are thousands of stolen artworks sitting in warehouses and private collections around the world. Pieces that could be returned to museums, families, countries where they belong. Maya's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Agent Rodriguez. She read it quickly, then showed the screen to Morrison. International Task Force is in position around Yuri's warehouse. They're detecting significant activity inside the building. Looks like tomorrow night's confrontation might happen ahead of schedule. Morrison checked his watch. It's only been 6 hours since you made the call to Reeves. The Kozlovs moved faster than we expected. Maya's phone rang. Unknown international number. Maya Chun. The voice was heavily accented, speaking English with obvious difficulty. Maya recognized it immediately from recordings she had heard during her debriefings 7 years ago. Alexei Kozlov, the older brother who had taken control of the family operations after Dmitry Volkov's arrest. Speaking. You have caused considerable trouble for my organization. Maya put the phone on speaker so Morrison could hear the conversation. I'm sorry to hear that. I was under the impression that we were going to conduct business tomorrow evening. Plans have changed. My people have located the warehouse you mentioned. Very interesting discoveries there. I hope your family reunion is everything you hoped it would be. There was a long pause. When Alexei spoke again, his voice was colder. My brother Yuri sends his regards. He also sends a message. He says to tell you that the tattoo on your arm is incomplete. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ocean air. What do you mean? He means that while you were memorizing locations for Volkov's organization, other people were memorizing information about you, including the location of certain FBI safe houses where witnesses have been relocated. Maya's blood ran cold. What do you want? We want to arrange a new meeting. You and your current associates will return to Seattle tomorrow evening. You will provide complete documentation of your tattoo, including sections that you have not yet revealed. In exchange, we will not visit the safe house in Portland where a certain FBI agent named Rodriguez is currently protecting her family. Morrison grabbed Maya's arm, his expression urgent. Agent Rodriguez had risked her career and her life to help Maya escape from Volkov's organization. She had also become something approaching a friend during the years of witness protection. How do I know Rodriguez is actually in danger? Check your secure message system. Maya opened her encrypted app and found a new message containing a photograph. Agent Rodriguez was sitting at what looked like a kitchen table, unaware that she was being photographed through a window. A man in dark clothing was visible in the background, clearly positioned to have a clear shot at her, if necessary. You have 24 hours to return to Seattle, Alexei continued. The meeting location will be sent to you tomorrow afternoon. Come alone, or Agent Rodriguez and her family will suffer the consequences of your selfishness. The line went dead. Maya stared at the phone, her mind racing through possibilities and consequences. Morrison was already talking to Captain Chun about turning the vessel around. We need to head back to Seattle immediately. Maya shook her head. No, we stick to the original plan. Maya, they have your friend under surveillance. You can't just abandon her. I'm not abandoning her. I'm making sure she doesn't become a casualty of my mistakes. Maya pulled out her tablet and began typing rapidly. I'm sending Rodriguez detailed information about every location marked on my tattoo. Everything the FBI didn't get during my original debriefing. Safe houses, storage facilities, transportation routes, even the personal codes used by individual operatives. What good will that do if she's already being watched? Rodriguez isn't just an FBI agent. She's the coordinator for the multinational art recovery task force. If I give her complete intelligence about Volkov's old network and the current Kozlov operations, she can coordinate simultaneous raids across 3 continents. Maya was typing as fast as she could, uploading detailed photographs and explanations for every symbol on her tattoo. The Kozlovs are expecting me to trade information for Rodriguez's life. Instead, I'm going to give Rodriguez the tools she needs to destroy their entire organization. Morrison watched over her shoulder as Maya documented years' worth of criminal intelligence. You're talking about taking down a network that spans multiple countries and involves hundreds of people. I'm talking about finishing what I started 7 years ago when I walked into that FBI office in New York. Maya's fingers moved across the tablet screen, adding notes about current operations, active personnel, and ongoing criminal activities that she had pieced together from Morrison's intelligence files and her own observations. The Kozlovs made a mistake when they threatened Rodriguez, Maya continued. They show me that they're still operating from the same locations, using the same methods, and trusting the same people they were using when I escaped. That makes them vulnerable. Captain Chun approached from the bridge. I've been monitoring Coast Guard communications. There's significant law enforcement activity in the Seattle area. Multiple agencies coordinating some kind of major operation. Maya smiled grimly. Rodriguez is moving faster than I expected. Her phone buzzed with another encrypted message. Received your intelligence package. Coordinating with Interpol, European Task Force, and Asian Crime Division. Multiple raids scheduled for 0300 local time across 7 countries. We'll extract my family to secure location before operations begin. Thank you for the complete picture. Morrison was reading over Maya's shoulder. Simultaneous raids in 7 countries. The tattoo doesn't just show where things are hidden in the United States. It shows the entire network, from Moscow to Hong Kong, from Prague to Istanbul. If Rodriguez coordinates this correctly, they can roll up the entire stolen art trade in one night. Maya's phone rang again. This time it was Agent Rodriguez calling directly. Maya, I don't know how to thank you. This intelligence is going to solve cases that have been cold for years. Don't thank me yet. Are you and your family safe? Extraction team picked us up 20 minutes ago. We're in a secure facility outside the city. But, Maya, you need to know that the Kozlovs aren't the only ones looking for you. The raids are uncovering evidence that there are multiple criminal organizations competing for the information in your tattoo. Maya felt tired suddenly. How many people want me dead, Sarah? Too many. Which is why I'm recommending that Maya Chun officially dies in a boating accident tonight. The Coast Guard will report that your vessel encountered rough weather and went down with all hands. Captain Chun, who had been listening to the conversation, nodded professionally. I can arrange that. Happens more often than people realize in these waters. Morrison looked shocked. You're talking about faking Maya's death again? I'm talking about giving her the permanent freedom she deserves, Rodriguez replied. Maya has provided intelligence that will shut down multiple criminal networks and recover hundreds of millions of dollars in stolen art. She's earned the right to disappear completely. Maya looked out at the dark ocean surrounding their vessel. What about Morrison and his team? They're not part of the witness protection program. Morrison's organization has been cooperating with law enforcement for months. They're on the legitimate side of art recovery. They can return to their normal operations once the current threat is eliminated. Morrison was quiet for a moment, then looked at Maya. What do you want to do? Maya realized that for the first time in her adult life, someone was asking her what she wanted instead of telling her what she had to do. She thought about the law firm in Seattle, the carefully constructed life she was leaving behind, and the tattoo that had defined her existence for so many years. I want to disappear. Really disappear this time. No handlers, no check-ins, no emergency protocols. I want to choose my own name, my own life, my own future. Captain Chun was already making arrangements over the ship's radio. Coast Guard records will show that all passengers were lost when the vessel encountered unexpected weather approximately 50 miles from shore. Bodies were never recovered. Maya's phone buzzed with a final message from Rodriguez. First raids commencing now. Early reports indicate major success. Dozens of arrests, millions in recovered art. The network is collapsing. You're finally free. As Maya read the message, she could see lights in the distance. Helicopters and patrol boats converging on locations along the coastline. The final chapter of Volkov's criminal empire was playing out while she sailed away from it all. Morrison sat down beside her at the railing. So what happens now? For both of us? Maya considered the question. Now you go back to your legitimate art recovery business. You use the reputation you'll gain from tonight's intelligence coup to attract better clients and more interesting cases. You clean house in your organization and make sure you never again hire people like Reeves. And you? Maya smiled for the first time in days. I'll become someone new. Someone who is never forced to carry other people's secrets. Someone who chooses her own battles. She looked down at her arm, where the tattoo remained hidden beneath her sleeve. But first, I'm going to find the best tattoo removal specialist in whatever city I end up in. It's time to erase the past completely. The Coast Guard vessel continued through the night toward international waters, carrying Maya away from the identity that had defined her for so long. Behind them, the coordinated law enforcement operation was dismantling a criminal network that had operated across multiple continents for decades. By morning, the newspapers would report that a major international art theft ring had been broken up in simultaneous raids across 7 countries. Hundreds of stolen artworks had been recovered, dozens of criminals have been arrested, and millions of dollars in illegal proceeds have been seized. The reports would also mention that the operation had been made possible by intelligence provided by a confidential informant whose identity would never be revealed. They would not mention that the informant had been a young woman who had spent years carrying a map of the criminal underworld written in ink across her skin. Maya Chun would be listed among the casualties of a tragic boating accident that claimed several lives during an unexpected storm off the Washington coast. Ling Wei had disappeared 7 years earlier in New York. Now both identities were gone, leaving Maya free to become whoever she chose to be. As the sun rose over the Pacific Ocean, Maya stood at the bow of the vessel and watched the coastline of Canada appear on the horizon. For the first time since she was 16 years old, she had no idea what came next. The uncertainty was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. The tattoo that had controlled her life for so long would soon be gone, erased by lasers and medical procedures until her skin showed no trace of the criminal world she was leaving behind. But the memories would remain, and the knowledge that she had finally chosen to fight back instead of simply running away. Maya had no idea what name she would choose for a new life, or what career she would pursue, or where she would eventually settle down. But for the first time in years, those decisions would be entirely her own. The woman who had been Ling Wei and Maya Chan was about to become someone completely new, and this time she would write her own story.